Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, where you are. I'm Saurabh Agarwal, corporate trainer and the technology specialist. Today, I'm presenting the course content of Angular 11 and also tell about what exactly the Angular is. Why we want to learn Angular. Today, the industry is going forward to move to the client side application that is called Angular. First of all, I'm talk about my experience. Like I'm the corporate trainer and working as a technology specialist, and I'm having experience of 17 years in the IT industry. So I'm giving the trainings on Angular 2 to 11 versions. So I'm giving the trainings on C Sharp, OOPS, MVC, ASP.NET, design patterns, advanced C Sharp concepts. So .NET Core, SQL Server, microservices, Blazor. So this is my skill set. I'm basically associated with the Microsoft technologies. If you basically see the next slide, I'm presenting the course content of the Angular, where we'll learn the depth training, what exactly the Angular is. So it would be the practical hands-on session where you will be able to understand each and every concept in details. We'll start with the enterprise application. You can see with the digitization, the standards, why JavaScript evolution, why we want to use the JavaScript, and how it is going to remove JavaScript by the TypeScript. So we can also learn about the single page applications, then what exactly the standards are, why Angular, why we want to use Angular, what exactly the MVC in Angular. Then I will also speak about on the TypeScript. So basically in Angular, if you learn the Angular, you must learn the TypeScript. TypeScript is mandatory to learn, as TypeScript is an open source and it's an object-oriented programming. So we'll do some programming on the TypeScript. What exactly the DOM? It's a document object model. What is in Angular 11? What is the objective of the Angular version, history, ecosystem? Then we'll talk about the setup of the Angular. Then we'll talk about the folder description and talk about execution cycle of Angular, how the Angular component has been made. I can also basically covering the creating the components manually, creating the components by Angular CLI, creating the nested components, creating nesting inside the nesting components. We'll do the live demonstrations, and we do lots of examples for creating the components. In a similar way, if you talk about Angular data bindings is divided into two types, that is single way data binding and the two-way data binding. If you talk about single way data binding, it's in string interpolation, property binding, event binding, attribute binding, and the two-way data binding. Then we'll talk about the component communication, where we can move the data from one component to another component, that is from parent to child and child to parent, right? So basically in this, we will learn about input property, output property, and the view child. After once we learn, we'll also learn about the directives in Angular component. We have four types of directives in Angular. That is component directive, structural directive, then we have an attribute directive and the custom directive. We'll talk also about the ng template, ng container, ng content, and the component lifecycle hooks, which is very important to learn the Angular. Then we'll talk about the services. We'll talk about the dependency injection, HTTP client, and what exactly the injectable is, observable, promise. Then we'll go also understand what exactly the Angular forms. If we talk about in Angular 11, we have two types of forms, that is template driven form and the reactor driven form, and we'll do the practical implementation with this. We also learned the bootstrap in this training, and we'll make our bootstrap template driven form and the reactor driven form with all the controls along with the validations. If we talk about next topic, we will basically covering the routing. So basically how we can do the routing navigation, routing parameters, child routes, and we can check about each and everything in details. So after that, we can come with the advanced Angular. So where we can able to learn HTTP interceptor for customer handling, auth guard, local storage, session storage. We also covered in the introduction of RxJX. So after covering this, we also cover with the pipes in Angular. Then we talk about the Angular build, that is called ng-serve and ng-build. Here you can see I've also covering the bootstrap and the production deployment. After that, we also work on the project in Angular, which is very, very important, and you will be able to understand each and everything in detail, right? So basically, I just want to show you, even I've written what exactly the Angular is, why we want to learn Angular. Angular is a client-side JS framework which allows to create reactive responsive single page application. What is single page application? Single page application, it's a website. It's an, you can say it's a website, or it's a web application which interacts with the user by dynamically rewriting the current page rather than loading the new pages from the server again and again. I don't want to load. I don't want to load the new pages from the server again and again. I want to work on a single page. That is called single page application. So Angular is a client-side JS framework. It's an open source. Angular uses the single page application. It's a binding framework. It's an, you can say Angular, it's a JS framework which runs on dev server, which runs on dev server. If you need a dev server, we need a Node.js server. For production, we can use Linux, we can use IaaS, we can use Mac operating system. Angular, if we talk about Angular participants, if we talk about Angular, Angular internally uses the language that is called TypeScript. So even I told you that TypeScript is an open source, it's an object-oriented programming, and that is the reason we want to learn the Angular. And TypeScript is a product of Microsoft. Angular basically provides several packages for developing the front end. Angular does not support the database connectivity for the client side framework. And if you want to run Angular, that is we can run the Angular by default on 4200 port. So Angular, it's a client side MVC. Angular supports routing. It's a navigation from one component to another component. Angular uses the mobile first approach, and TypeScript does not understand the browser. So basically, all of you participants, basically, what if you talk about TypeScript? TypeScript basically, TypeScript uses the extension .ts, and it uses the TSC compiler, which converts into the JavaScript, and JavaScript sends to the DOM, and DOM sent to the browser. So whatever we are writing into an Angular, it converts into JavaScript. So I will now show you the project, which we are covering in this session. Let me show you. Just give me a 1 minute. So participants, the this is a live project which we are covering in this session. So let me do the ng serve, and you will be able to understand what we are covering in the project. So you can see I've run ng serve hyphen o. Ng stands for Angular, serve means server, hyphen o means opening the server. So once we do the practical hands-on session and concepts, then we need to build the project. Project is very important because once if you don't make the project, participants, you are not getting the confidence. So once we complete all the concept, then we will make the project, and you will be having some confidence. And once you make the project, you will be having lots of confidence that you worked on the Angular. So just wait for another few minutes. So it is just serving the ng serve hyphen o, and I will show you the project. Now, participants, you can see it is building the project. So it is right in Webpack. And now you can see the project. Here you can see localhost 4200 by default, it is running. So this is the login page. So here you can see this is the default page of the project where you will build the application. So here I given the password, username and password. If you submit it, so this is the default page where we will make the project. This is called cross sell. So here you can see I put the banners on that. After that, here you can see the products. You can see the product page where you can see all the information. You can hide the images. If you click on the product, you click on the bootstrap. So you click on the bootstrap. So you will be getting this images. In the users tab, you will get the data. This is totally on the bootstrap, design on the bootstrap. Here you can see the post data from the post, which is coming from the type code. This type code JSON. This is contact information. Like here, you can have some trainees with me, and this is about the help page where you to enroll the session, price details. This one. So we build this is where site become training plus e-commerce website. Here you can talk about the Angular. Here right now I'm just developing this page, and if you click on this, then you will be directly redirect to the download sections, right? So in this way, here you can do the sign up. Here you can do the logout. Once you sign up, it do the data stored into a database. Feedback, here you can see right now my service is not running, so it will give an error. So once the service it is this project is being connected with the .NET Core, and you will be able to understand each and everything in details. If you like the session, participants, please like, subscribe the channel. And if you want to learn one-to-one session, you can contact directly to me. Details have been on the comment box. You can call directly and then we can discuss on the same. Thank you so much for your time and for your patience. Thank you.